Distinguished ranking member.
Just a point of personal privilege to make a correction. The reason that General Austin required a waiver was not because of his participation in a corporate enterprise. It was because he did not have 7 years of interruption between his service and his appointment. Second point is that if any of us were appointed as Secretary of Defense, we would be subject to the same types of questions. And the case in point is Senator John Tower was nominated for Secretary of Defense. It was discovered by his colleagues that his behavior was not commensurate with the responsibilities despite his service, and he was voted down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Duckworth, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And also, Secretary Mattis had to have this waiver as well. Mr. Hegseth, this hearing is about whether you are qualified to be Secretary of Defense, and one of the qualifications, to answer my colleague's question, is to actually win the votes of every member of this committee and to be confirmed by the United States Senate. And you need to convince us that you're worthy of that vote, because the people of the state of Illinois voted for me to be their senator so that I could cast that vote when it comes to picking who is going to be the next Secretary of Defense. This hearing now seems to be a hearing about whether or not women are qualified to serve in combat, and not about whether or not you are qualified to be Secretary of Defense. And let me just say that the American people need a SecDef who's ready to lead.
One of the most critical concerns raised during the confirmation hearing of Mr. Hex revolves around his lack of qualifications to serve as Secretary of Defense. This position, arguably one of the most demanding and high-stakes roles within the U.S. government, requires a candidate who not only understands the vast scope of national defense, but is also capable of leading a department with over 1 million active duty personnel and managing an annual budget that exceeds $800 billion. Mr. Hex's professional background, as highlighted during the questioning, reveals a stark gap between his prior experience and the expectations of this role. Specifically, it was noted that the largest organization he had ever led comprised only about 200 people. Compared to the Department of Defense, that level of leadership is minimal, both in scale and complexity. The issue becomes even more concerning when financial management is considered. Mr. Hex has only overseen a budget of approximately $118 billion at most, an amount that is exponentially smaller than the defense budget he would be tasked with handling if confirmed. To put that in perspective, his prior experience managing funds equates to just a fraction, less than 1/1500th of what he would oversee as Secretary of Defense. This financial disparity is more than just numbers on paper. It reflects a lack of exposure to the scale, intricacy, and strategic balancing required in managing a budget that impacts global security, weapons procurement, military pay, veteran services, research and development, and countless other defense operations. Furthermore, Mr. Hex's management history is marred by poor fiscal performance. The hearing highlighted that his handling of a previous budget was so mishandled that forensic accountants had to be brought in to determine what went wrong after he left. That situation alone raises red flags about his ability to provide oversight and direction in a financial environment that demands both precision and accountability. If someone cannot manage a comparatively small and simple budget without intervention, how can they be trusted to oversee the financial backbone of national defense? This lack of experience also extends beyond numbers. Leadership at the Department of Defense isn't just about managing people or budgets. It's about understanding military logistics, strategic planning, defense policy, and being able to swiftly and intelligently make decisions that could mean life or death for troops in the field. The Secretary must interface with military leaders, foreign allies, and Congress, and also be able to analyze classified intelligence to make real-time decisions in the best interest of national security. In all of these areas, Mr. Hex appears underprepared. His resume does not reflect a breadth of knowledge or decision-making experience in environments as sensitive or consequential as those he would face in the Pentagon. Ultimately, qualifications for this role are not just preferred, they are essential. The stakes are too high to gamble on someone whose prior leadership experience falls so far short of what the role demands.
What will happen if, whether or not you pass that audit? Have you led an audit of any organization? Yes or no? I don't want a long answer. Yes or no? Have you led an audit of any organization of which you were in charge?
Senator, in both of the organizations I ran, we were always completely fiscally responsible.
Yes or
with the
no,
money
did
that
you
we
lead
had.
an audit?
And the way
yes
my
or
leadership
no,
has
did you lead
been
an audit?
stated
Yes or
has
no?
been completely
What are you afraid of? You
mischaracterized.
can't answer this question. Yes or no, did you lead an audit? Do you not know this answer?
Senator,
Yes
every
or
part
no?
of my leadership
Yes
of these
or no?
organizations
Yes
has
or
been
no, did you lead an audit?
misrepresented
I will
from
take
top
that as
to
a no.
bottom.
What were the findings? So there were no findings because you've never led an audit. What guidance did you give the auditors? None, because you've never led an audit. Nobody expects you to be an accountant, Mr. Hegseth. What we expect is for you to understand the complexity of this Pentagon budget process that is absolutely necessary to outfit our warfighters. Look, the Secretary of Defense is required to make quick decisions every single day that, well, with high-level information that's being provided for them. A Secretary of Defense has to have breadth and depth of knowledge. Right now, I am concerned that you have neither. Mr. Hegseth, what is the highest level of international negotiations that you have engaged in, that you have led in? Because the Secretary of Defense does lead international security negotiations. There are three main ones that the Secretary of Defense leads and signs. Can you name at least one of them?
Could you repeat the question, Senator?
Sure. What is the highest level of international security agreement that you have led? And can you name some that the Secretary of Defense would lead? There's three main ones. Do you know?
I have not been involved in international security arrangements because I have not been in government other
Okay.
than serving in the military. So my job has been
So
to
no, the
lead
answer is no.
men and
Can you
women in
name one of the
combat.
three main ones that the Secretary?
Mr. Hex's inability to answer direct and essential questions during the confirmation hearing further exposed significant gaps in his readiness for the role of Secretary of Defense. When confronted with simple yes or no inquiries regarding his experience leading audits, he hesitated, deflected, and ultimately failed to provide clear answers. This lack of decisiveness and clarity raised serious doubts not just about his experience, but about his capacity to respond under pressure, a skill absolutely vital for anyone charged with national defense. Audits, particularly in a department as massive as the Department of Defense, are not optional. They are fundamental processes used to ensure accountability, prevent fraud, and maintain the integrity of military operations. The fact that Mr. Hex could not confirm whether he had ever led an audit, it shows a startling lack of familiarity with the kind of administrative responsibility expected in this position. Equally concerning was his response to questions about international defense negotiations. The Secretary of Defense routinely represents the United States in HICE, takes conversations with foreign allies and defense partners. These discussions often involve classified intelligence, delicate political tensions, and strategic coordination on global military actions. When asked to name one of the three key types of international security agreements that a Secretary of Defense would typically manage, Mr. Hex was unable to provide an answer. After being pressed further, he hesitantly mentioned NATO and status of forces agreements, but only after much prompting and without displaying any real confidence or understanding of the subject matter. This suggested that even basic awareness of the key components of international defense policy was not part of his current skill set. His failure to name how many nations are part of ASEAN and his mischaracterization of member states.
Behind me is a copy of the Soldier's Creed, a copy that usually hangs over my desk here in the Senate, and you should be familiar with it. It's the same copy that hung over my desk at Walter Reed every single day that I woke up and fought my way back because I wanted to go back and serve next to my buddies who'd saved my life. This same copy, these words are repeated over and over and over again. And let me read out two things to you, two sentences. I will always place the mission first, and I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior task. Mr. Hegseth, our troops follow these words every single day, and they man up and they pack their rucksacks and they go to war. And they deserve a leader who can lead them, not a leader who wants to lower the standards for himself or raising the standards for other people. And by the way, our troops already meet the standards.
So the confirmation hearing placed a powerful emphasis on the standards, discipline, and sacrifice required of you, military personnel, especially when compared to the standards seemingly being lowered to accommodate Mr. Hex's nomination. One of the most striking contrasts made during the session was between the unwavering commitment shown daily by America's service members and the lack of demonstrated competence by the nominee. The hearing did not just critique Mr. Hegseth's resume, it questioned whether someone without sufficient preparation, leadership experience, or understanding of military affairs could credibly lead the very people who are trained to give everything in service to their country. This wasn't merely about technical qualifications, it was about principle, merit, and respect for the uniform. A symbolic and emotionally charged moment in the hearing was when Senator Duckworth referenced the Soldier's Creed, a guiding document that reflects the values and ethos instilled in every service member. She quoted powerful lines such as, "I will always place the mission first," and "I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough." These aren't just words, they represent a lifelong commitment, the kind that service members leave out on the battlefield, in training, and in every act of service. For someone to take on a leadership position over such individuals, they too must demonstrate not only competence, but a commitment to these same principles. The argument being made was not just that Mr. Hex was unqualified on paper. It was that he hadn't earned the right to lead those who live by a code of duty, sacrifice, and excellence. The core issue is that our armed forces operate on meritocracy. Troops train hard, meet strict standards, and are held accountable for their actions. Promotions and responsibilities are earned through performance and experience. When someone is nominated for a position as consequential as Secretary of Defense, it sends a clear message about what kind of leadership the country values. If that nominee appears to have received consideration based on political favoritism or personal connections rather than hard-earned merit, it undermines morale and trust, not just among the military, but among the American people. Troops are asked to give everything, often sacrificing their safety, health, and even lives in defense of national interests. They are trained to be resilient, prepared, and mission-focused. How can we justify asking these individuals to follow a leader who has not been held to the same standards? The risk is more than symbolic. A weak or unprepared Secretary of Defense could lead to poor decision making, compromised missions, and lives lost unnecessarily. That is a consequence the nation cannot afford. Moreover, the hearing made it clear that appointing someone like Mr. Hex, who appears to be leaning on political relationships rather than qualifications, sends the wrong message at every level. It tells troops that standards can be bent for the well-connected. It tells adversaries that the United States might not be as serious or strategic in its leadership choices, and it tells citizens that merit may no longer be the foundation of public service. That's a dangerous precedent, one that must be avoided at all costs.